morning, everybody. Dennis here. So I was sitting here at the computer this morning, and I had a few videos come across the news feed. They were by a gentleman by the name of Dr. Chris Martinson. He's got some interesting information, and this is all revolving the attempted assassination of President Trump. So I wanted to do this video because this information is important. It's scientific data. Basically, he took from different sources from the day of the incident with the sounds of the gunfire and put it into a program. So we're going to get into this video. I'm going to put the link down below for Dr. Chris Martinson. This is courtesy of him. So let's get into this.
So here's the thing. We have some open glaring questions. These are my questions. This is what I'm going to be seeking to resolve over the next coming days, weeks. I still can't find out who was the special agent in charge that day. This should be well known. This should be very easy. I should be able to look at their background, look at their service record, try and find out who they've donated money to, find out if they have any social media presence where they've actively said things that were anti-Trump, stuff like that, right?
Look at some of his questions. He said these are his questions, but these are important questions. You've heard in several videos about the water tower. It's an advantage point. Me, as retired law enforcement, whether you put a counter sniper nest or a lookout nest on that water tower, it looks over the entire area. It gets interesting. I mean, these are a lot of questions that I have myself, and this gentleman here, you know, these are serious questions. So that's the first part of Dr. Chris Martinson. Those are legitimate questions. Me being a detective, I want answers to every question. We have more questions now than answers. Every day there's something new, which adds to more questions. So you got to think of it as building a case. You get new evidence or a new witness. That creates more questions in a case. This here, the questions just keep building up, and we're not getting no answers. So the first part of that was his questions that he wants to know. Here's some eyewitnesses from the day of the rally that were talking about and have mentioned somebody up on the water tower. We're going to watch these clips of witnesses, bystanders at the Trump rally. All right, let's get into this.
And so we got to talk about the water tower real quick. Now listen, before I do, we know that eyewitness reports are some of the least reliable things you can count on. However, when three eyewitnesses give you the same thing, they all point at the grassy knoll or whatever, you can start to give it a little more credence. Let's listen in. I got three things for you to listen to.
First crack of the gunfire, and I just screamed, "It's the sniper, it's the sniper," and he was firing down toward the water tower.
Firing down toward the water tower, firing down from the water tower, I think she meant to say, but maybe I'm interpreting too much. Listen in.
First crack of the gunfire, and I just screamed, "It's the sniper, it's the sniper," and he was firing down toward the water tower.
That's what we're hearing.
And yeah, and then at that same exact moment, there was a spray from the right side of the stage that I thought was some type of gas. Like, or not gas, but smoke.
Sure.
You know, blind up front. She said it was, we heard it.
So what she's describing, where she thought it was gas, where the firefighter, the American hero, was killed that day. Condolences to his family. There was equipment there, and a hydraulic hose burst from one of the bullets piercing the line. So the hydraulic fluid under pressure sprayed everywhere. And that did create a little bit of a panic. You don't hear too much about it. All right, so this is the first eyewitness that's talking about the water tower. She distinctively said that she's seen a sniper on the water tower shooting down.
Right, so they're here in agreement, like from the water tower. Now, why would they say that? There's the water tower right there. Obviously, it's in very good position to have a clear view, a clear line of sight to Trump over here, given how the trees are positioned. How about this one as well? I'm going to skip forward.
Sharpshooter shot to the left. He killed the gentleman in the water tower here. Now,
Sharpshooter to the left, killed a gentleman in the water tower here. Very clear, very clear what this woman just said.
I called my husband at home who's watching TV. He said, I thought Trump hurt his ear when he went to the ground. But he said, no, on TV they showed before Trump hit the ground, the ear was bleeding. So that sharpshooter went across, Trump turned his head, his ear must have been nipped, and it killed somebody in the stands over to the left.
Don't know about that
Did you
either.
see anyone injured besides the blood on the
Fall was the gentleman from Beaver County who spoke earlier in the day, who was running for the State House Representative, Elmore, I know his name. He had a white shirt on, and I saw him come from that left stands where the people were mostly shot. I think there were several. They said 3 medevacs left here. Blood was down the right side of his, he wasn't shot, but you could see that he was next to somebody who must have been bleeding profusely, because he either helped them and rubbed against them or tried to get them help or something. It was covered. So I knew that he was near somebody. That was my first indication that somebody was actually shot when I saw his blood on his shirt.
Aaron, when did you realize that hey, this might not be fireworks, this might be something else?
When they got Trump down on the ground. And we were just so concerned that he wasn't hit because we couldn't. It happens so fast, it's really hard to process it. I guess if you have it on your camera to see the exact minute, you can tell. But when he got up, he did not look bad at all. What I've heard coming out here is now they feel that there was 2 shooters on both sides. So they got the one on the tower on this side, but the one on the red side they never got. So that's why they wanted us to leave immediately, because they thought there's still a shooter out there somewhere. So there could be in these woods around Butler. And I feel sad for our country. I feel sad for...
All right, so I don't know if you can hear this. I'll try and adjust the volume. But this eyewitness is stating that the counter snipers shot the shooter in the water tower first. She said it 2 or 3 times. Counter snipers shot the guy in the water tower first.
All right, so she's very clear about this, that there were 2 shooters. They were told there might be a second shooter, so that's why they had to get out of there. Obviously, it's the confusion of a very chaotic scene. I get that.
The ground, and he kept standing. I was like, you gotta get down, Bob. You gotta get down. They're gonna shoot you. Because if they would have had like a machine gun, they could have taken us off. So then we laid there for a while. We saw different places where the gunshots were at, and then they got President Trump down. Secret Service did, and they took him out of there and got him off of the stage, and he was bleeding. And so then my son and daughter-in-law was back behind us, behind the fence. And we was worried about them. We couldn't call them. And so we started trying to get after them then when they finally let us up. And they had been right by the fence where the other shooter was. There was one I heard in the water tower. There was one by the fence. And still, obviously, initial
There was
reports.
one in the water tower, and there was one over there, right? So shooters. So again, look, people can have very different memories about what's going on. Eyewitness, I get all of that. But by the time you have 3 separate people all saying water tower, how come you haven't been hearing about this water tower yet? The water tower, the most obvious spot that you would set up, is somehow being left completely out of the storyline, out of the narrative, even though we have these eyewitnesses. And by the way, Dr. Chris Martinson of Peak Prosperity, this is explosive. We have 2 victims here, comparator. There were 2 shooters. So let's reorient ourselves with the scene again. Let me get my drawing tool out, or my pointing tool. Okay, so first up, they tell us that the shooter was here. This is very accurately located on the roof off of the drain pipe, as we've covered before. I'll show you that one more time. I just want to make sure we're all sharing the same orientation, because this is important, right? And we have 2 victims here. Comparator who died, another guy who was very severely injured. He has life-altering injuries. And then another gentleman back here in the upper right part of the stand. I'm going to show you all this evidence, okay? So first up, we need to know where all the shots went, right? And I'm going to show you that the first 3 shots came from a very different weapon in a different location than the next string of shots that came out. It's either 5 or 6, depending on how you count. But you decide, listen, it couldn't be more clear how different they are. So this is we're going to analyze 2 separate audio streams today. This is the first one. This is taken from a microphone right in front of the podium. So you're going to hear 2 things, of course. You're going to hear a snap. Sounds very sharp sound. That's the supersonic crack of the bullet flying within, sending its supersonic shockwave to the microphone. Microphone picks it up like that. And then there's the report of the gun, which follows a little later, sounds like an echo, so it goes crack thump, crack thump. The crack thump is a well-known tool that snipers would use to estimate how far away somebody is that's shooting them. If there's a very long distance between the crack and the thump, that your shooter's very far away because the bullet flies faster than the speed of sound. So the sound is the explosion of the gun. Boom! That starts traveling towards, the victim down there or whoever's downrange. But the bullet gets there first, and it gets there at supersonic velocity, which means faster than 1,100 feet per second, give or take the altitude and conditions. So if anything's traveling faster than the speed of sound, it has a sonic boom, crack, right? So that's what we're going to hear. You're going to hear first in this tape. First, you're going to hear 3 very clearly distinct crack thumps. And then things get a little confusing. Right? It gets a little fast. And so how do you count and all of that? Whoever put this video together did the counting. Thank you for that. However, I think there's some room for interpretation here as well about that. So without any further ado, this is that.
Take a look what happened.
Wait. Hang on. You can one more. All right. There's that last one. Okay, one more time.
Take a look what happened.
Listen to this. Can you hear that? That's 1, 2, 3. Okay. And then hard to unravel what's happening there because we have echoes. We've got them overstacking each other. So there's 2 supersonic cracks that come in, and later the thumps of the gun come in, the crack thumps. So it gets a little tricky to unravel. This is the audio file. I pulled it into a program called Audacity, right, off of that video. And I find on here 9 separate shots, okay? So I find 3, then a grouping of 5, and then one last one out there. Number 9, I think, this is the sniper shot that would have, I think, looks like it took out Crooks just above the left eyebrow. If you want to go look at those, or, the gross pictures, right? Obviously, he's all bloody and dead. They have that close-up picture of his face, right? And you can actually see a hole right about here over the left eyebrow. So we have those first 3 shots, then we have the 5, and then that last one. I'm not going to worry about the last one as much, but we're going to have to look at these first sets very, very carefully here. So here is video number 1. Just to orient ourselves, I count off of this video 15.8 seconds from the very first to the very last shot. So the AP article that said, Crooks took a shot and was neutralized by snipers within seconds, what they meant was 15.8 seconds, unless I have this story wrong. Next, we're going to look at these first 3 shots here so you understand how we can analyze the rest of them. And so here's the shot. This is the sonic crack. So that's the bullet is the blue arrows, and then the report is going to be the black arrows. So that's the crack, thump, crack, thump, crack, thump. And of course, it was the first bullet that nicked Trump's ear. And again, let me get my thing here. Here's what it sounds like. Okay, so now I've just isolated the sound. There it is. One last time just to make sure we're hearing this right. There's 0.22 seconds between the crack and the thump, and knowing a little bit about the type of the bullet that was used and the caliber of it and the air conditions and things like that, you can estimate the distance of the shooter and how far away the shooter was. So that 0.22 second gap between the crack and the thump is very important because it helps us identify that a gun is being shot from that distance. If there were any other lengths, like if we saw a crack thump, crack thump, crack thump, we would clearly see that that was 2 separate weapons because assuming the first and the last crack thumps were the same distance apart. So if there's any variation between the crack and the thump, that's when you say, oh, that's a different weapon. So that's one way. The other way is just the tenor of it, just the sound of the weapon. Does it sound... The audio from video 1, when we look at it here, the first 3 shots we can make complete sense of. Okay, fine. Then there's a 4th shot that arrives, and it does so with the bullet and report at 0.212 seconds, close enough for government work here or rough analysis. Here's another bullet and a report, so that's the snap, crack. There's echoes. We see there's echoes, so the bullet makes a and then this sound is echoing probably off of one of the buildings. We have a lot of flat surfaces back there. So the microphone is here, supersonic crack, and the crack makes it to the microphone, and then it echoes off of something. And so we see the crack and an echo. We could probably very, very accurately estimate how far away that flat surface is off of that echo, and then you get the report itself. Crack, thump, crack, thump. So shots 4 and 5, I'm still pretty good with shots 4 and 5 in terms of being able to make sense of them. From 6 on, man, it gets all kinds of weird. And I'm not going to take you through the weirdness from video 1. To try and resolve what's happening with those other shots, we're now going to turn to video 2. This really clarifies everything and makes the entire case. So we'll listen to it up through the shots, which is about 20 seconds of tape. Yeah, I won't take you through all the screaming and everything. And by the way, not for nothing, but screaming, I don't understand people who just start screaming and then just don't stop in an event like this. So listen past this. It's a little, it's you know, there's a lot of screaming going on, but you can clearly hear shots 1, 2, and 3, and then you can hear the other string of shots come out. We're going to analyze it. I'll break it down. We'll take a look at it. However, I do want to pre-stage this a little bit, and for yourself, decide for yourself, does 1, 2, and 3, do they sound the same at all compared to the other ones that you hear? Okay, and remember, we already have the analysis from audio experts elsewhere saying there's a difference between weapon A and weapon B. And I can show you that the rounds fired from weapon B were also aimed at the stage. Okay, so this is important. 2 weapons, one fires a string of 3, another fires a string of 5 or 6, depending on how we count, and off they go. And they were also out hitting the crowd and headed towards Trump. Okay, this is important because now we do not have a lone gunman anymore. Okay, so listen up. Here we go. And then that one more. That's the 6 I'm unclear on. Let's listen to this again. Muffled, and then, right? That's what I hear.
So if you're not familiar with firearms or even going to the range or hunting or shooting them, there is 2 weapons being used here. The sounds are very distinct for a platform, an Armalite rifle versus a bolt action rifle. The sounds are very different. That more of a click, tink, 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 that's your Armalite rifle. Versus that thump. To me, that thump is a larger caliber as well. There's a possibility, because there's not a crack to that sound, that thump is actually with a silencer. Pay attention to the sound again. We're going to play it a few times.
Now let's go into this with a little bit more depth. So video 2, the way I score it, there's about 16.0 seconds from first to last shot, so very consistent with what we're experiencing on the first audio, so that's nice. They kind of line up pretty well. And here's the whole audio from all that screaming and the shots from video 2. We have in blue the first 3 shots here. We have more shots here from a second weapon. I'm not sure about this one. It has a very different sound that we heard. And here's the final last shot, which I believe is from, oops, sorry, I don't have my thing. You know what I'm pointing at. This is the 5 that make a very distinct sound. Here's one with a very different crack in it. That's the 6th shot in the string. And then here we have the final last one, which I think is the sniper weapon, which is probably the one that put the bullet just over the left eye of Crooks on the roof. So we're going to take a closer look at the blue, the red, the blacks here, and listen to these things. But once again, let's just listen very carefully, and we'll go back and forth until you're certain of this yourself. Here's just the first 3 shots from that video. I haven't done anything, no audit, I haven't done any enhancements. This is both of these video audio pieces are exactly pulled straight from the video itself. Nothing else. I haven't boosted any, I haven't done any filtering, raw files, okay? So, and by the way, every instinct in me was to try and minimize all the screaming, but I was like, nope, 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 nope. That's just that. Like, what did you do? And then there's questions. These are raw files. Here's 1, 2, and 3 to start. Okay, listen to that again. And one more time. Okay, now let's listen to the next string. Ooh. Yeah. Hear that? So 6 sounds different to me, but here's an interesting thing. 1, 2, and 3, besides being muffled and further away, it doesn't have echoes. Here we have, this is a shot here, this one, this peak. Oh, darn it, I don't have my thing up again. Here we go. So this here is a shot. This is an echo. Very clearly an echo, and a shot in an echo, and a shot in an echo. So this is actually critical evidence, because you hear that, there's echoes coming off. So that also allows us, again, to analyze where was this gun. But first up, we just have an absolutely different sound between the first 3. There's no echo. It's much further away. It's more muffled. It's just not in the same place at all. But these next ones, very different sound. Totally different weapons. Okay, full stop. We have 2 separate weapons. Plus, we have no echoes coming off of the first 3. And then we do have echoes coming off of the next set. And that last one, that's different. That's not the sniper shot. The sniper shot is another 10 seconds later. So I don't know what number 6 is here, but we're just going to bookmark it for now and go on. So audio analysis conducted by Nick tells us that if those next string of shots, those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, are coming from shooter, or who we're going to call shooter 2, because shooter 1 is sending off those muffled ones. Shooter 2 is very consistent. If somebody was on the roof firing something with a 223 round, those, and here's where audio 2 was recorded from. That we've isolated exactly where the person was standing. They were walking, so there's a little movement, but they were basically right here. The echoes we have is perfectly consistent with conditions, atmospheric conditions of the day, to have bounced off of this building, because that's what you need for an echo. You need a hard, flat surface to echo off of. So that's what we got. We have an echo that perfectly lines up with somebody being up there in shooter number 2 position. Now, here's where it gets a little weirder. So what I've done, and this is, I've taken the first timeline. This is the video number 1's audio, and I've lined it up with video number 2's audio. And for the most part, we're in pretty darn good shape, right? Here you can see, so this is the supersonic crack. So that's the crack of the bullet arriving. And I've lined that up with what I did. I just shifted the timelines to line up with, this is the report of the gun. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gun plus a 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've lined up that first blast of the gun with the arrival of the bullet so that it should be consistent, because if you have the explosion, the arrival of it downstream, they ought to line up, right? The timings ought to be the same. So sure enough, shot 1, no problemo, lines up perfectly. This is an echo up top there. Here's the echo down here for shot 1. The top bullet is echoing off of whatever it's echoing up there near the stage. And this is echoing probably off of that building surface we just showed you. So shot 1, 100%, we're good to go. Shot 2, same thing, lines up perfectly. It's got an echo right here. That's that little peak right there. And it's got an echo up top. Everything lines up. Shot 3, though, remember this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one doesn't line up. This one is actually, this shot happens about 0.03 seconds earlier. There's not alignment. It should be right under this peak, but it's not, which means the shot happened 0.03 seconds. It took 0.03 seconds longer for that bullet to get downstream, right, to the microphone in front of the trunk.
All right, so this is what I was talking about with the possibility of multiple shooters, multiple perps. So that number 3 shot, as he's explaining now, took longer to cross that person's phone or whatever recording device it was. So that shot is further away than 1 and 2. So this gentleman here, this doctor, he's breaking down. I mean, this is scientific data showing you that the shots are at different distances. Shot number 3 is not coming from a counter sniper. The counter sniper is the last shot. I think he's saying it's number 9. So pay close attention to how these shots are lining up with the echoes. It's proving that there was shots fired at different distances. All right, let's get back into this.
I mean, well, that means that somewhere between, depending on the caliber and, maybe the caliber, I don't have any bullets here, I can't guarantee anything. Depending on a lot of things, the muzzle velocity of whatever this projectile was, and things like that. That 0.03 seconds, assuming it's 2,600 feet per second, that's how fast this thing's traveling, could be 2,500, could be 3,000. I don't know what they're using, so you have to make some guesses. But it's further away. This implies the possibility that shots 1 and 2, those are fired by crooks, but somebody about 78 to 100 feet further away took shot 3. Then shots 4 and 5 line up again perfectly, but shot 6, hey, that's off the mark again by the same amount. And, there's not quite the echoes that are happening off of shot 3. We don't see the same, there should be an echo right here. There should be an echo right here. We don't see that, not like these big echoes. So there's a chance here, I'm making a chance that there's a possibility of there were 2 weapons being fired that are different from the first one. 1, 2, 3 are from weapon 1. Weapon 2 for sure is in a different spot, but there's a possibility because of those times of weapon 3. So it could be that 1, 2, 4, 5 were taken by crooks on the roof because he heard some stuff going on, decided to take his shots, but 3 and 6 were taken by somebody else another 100 feet away. I don't know, we're going to need more professional audio analysis, but I like it when everything lines up, and everything does line up until we get to there. And then further down the timeline, things get really weird, and things aren't lining up, but we don't know who's firing down at that end of the spectrum either. So some weird stuff down there, but it doesn't line up really well enough for my... So my conclusions for today, there are at least 2 distinctly different weapons being fired, at least 2. The first 3 shots further away than the weapons that fired the next 5 to 7 shots because they're muffled. The sonic cracks tell us that everything was fired in Trump's and the audience's direction. That means they weren't taking out crooks with these shots. This means the lone shooter theory is 100% false. And I can't be the only guy who's done this analysis.
So I haven't seen a lot of videos of people posting this information. So I wanted to share this because to me it's important. So Dr. Martinson put the videos and the sound clips into a computer program and timed everything. You heard what he said. There's 2 distinctive guns, possibly a third, because he can't answer for 2 of the shots. We know the last shot is a counter sniper that took out the perp, plain and simple. We know that shot. But let's say 1 through 8. The first couple of shots are 1 firearm. Then you have a second firearm. Then there's a third shot that is different from those 2. So all we know about is 1 perp, 1 shooter. Just listening to those sound clips, there's more than 1. If he has a person filming at that location and it's picking up those sounds, you can clearly and distinctively hear 2 completely different sounds. The third one is iffy, but there is 100% 2 different sounds coming from 2 different guns. To me, that click, like I said earlier, is definitely a Armalite rifle platform. The second one sounds muffled to me. Could it be a silencer? Possibly. Could it be another shooter that's off in the distance and that's why it sounds muffled? Possibly. But you don't hear that distinctive click from an Armalite rifle. I can tell you that my platform rifles have a completely different sound than my bolt action. Whether it is a 308 platform versus my 308 bolt action. Two very distinctive sounds. Maybe I can get out to the range. I'll shoot a couple of rounds with my platform, and then I'll shoot. Actually, what I'll do is I'll shoot my 308 platform, and then I'll shoot my 308 bolt action, and I will record just the sound. I will put my recording device the exact same distance from the rifle, and then I'll play that bite. I'll play the full clip so you guys can see the different sounds between a platform Armalite rifle versus a bolt action rifle. I don't have my silencer yet, so I cannot run that test. If I get it soon, then I'll do another video, and we'll compare the sounds to this video clip. That'll give everybody more of an inside understanding of the different sounds of the firearms. And what I'll do is I'll put a recorder on my shooting bench, and I'll have a camera recording me so you can see what gun I am shooting and the sound that it's making each time. All right, guys. So I thought it was important to bring this to everybody's attention. Take it for what it is. To me, it is scientific data showing two different firearms, two distinctive sounds, possibly three firearms, because that sound is different than those first two. Alright, so if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up. Please show the support for our channel. Please subscribe to the channel, and we'll bring you hunting, cooking, shooting, all kinds of outdoor videos. Alright, guys, we appreciate each and every one of you. Again, we want to give our condolences and prayers to the firefighter, the American hero, Corey, who was killed by this perp. And our prayers go out to all the victims and President Trump. We appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you.